Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to the programme on Wednesday, the 22nd of January. A roundup of what's been happening news-wise today, and actually also looking ahead to what may well be news at the end of the week. That's the latest storm due to hit the island in the early hours of Friday morning. We're going to head down to the Met Office live in a couple of minutes for the latest information on that. Also tonight, details on the employment and inflation figures which have been released, and how many pitches at the grandstand this TT have been awarded to Manx traders. We'll be finding out very shortly. As ever, we'll keep an eye on the traffic and travel as well. And if you'd like to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. 166 177 is the text number, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. Let's head down to Lewis first of all, though, for a roundup of today's main news headlines. Fastamai.
Gusts of up to 75 miles per hour on Friday means disruption to land, sea and air travel is likely. Storm Éowyn is expected to hit in the early hours of the morning and stems from 250 mile per hour winds currently being experienced in the jet stream. A number of sailings from tomorrow night onwards are in doubt. Tynwald has approved the phasing out of the MyCard service by the end of the year, with payments moving to bank accounts instead. From February, new claimants will no longer be able to use the service, while existing users can collect cash until December 2025. Also from Tynwald,
this has been a complete failure.
Criticism of what led up to new rules being put in place on steam packet vessels, which means one adult must now accompany every 5 children on things like school trips. It used to be 1 to 10, but concerns were raised about behaviour on board. The Treasury Minister has committed to having further discussions with the ferry operator about the policy. Ramsey Swing Bridge has been closed to vehicles with immediate effect due to some damage identified on the bridge deck. The Department of Infrastructure has put an initial emergency closure in place from today for up to a week. The bridge will still be open and available to pedestrians. And the number of people out of work on the Isle of Man rose by 24 in last month when compared to November. The increase takes the jobless total to 345, which is 60 higher than December 2023. Turning to the international news, flowers are being laid at the scene in Birmingham where a 12-year-old boy has been stabbed to death. Police say they're questioning a 14-year-old who's also been arrested on suspicion of assaulting an elderly woman days earlier. Donald Trump's told Russia's leader to stop this ridiculous war in Ukraine or face high levels of taxes, tariffs and sanctions. The new US president's social media post warns Vladimir Putin to make a deal soon. And the owner of British Airways says it's investing in a company that plans to convert used tyres into jet fuel. A £100 million factory could begin operating in Sunderland next year. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much indeed, Lewis. Well, let's turn to the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Lewis mentioned the storm we are expecting on Friday. With all the details, we can join Stuart down at Ronaldsway Met Office. What can you tell us, Stuart?
Hello there, good evening. So yes, just starting at the moment then, it's fairly quiet overnight, minimum temperature of around 3 degrees. Into tomorrow, we are expecting a spell of rain during the morning. There's clear into isolated showers and sunny spells during the afternoon tomorrow. The fresh to strong southwest wind will increase strong to gale force, so that rain tomorrow could be quite gusty, and then that rain clears away from the west. Tomorrow's maximum temperature 8 degrees. But yes, there is a storm brewing out in the west of the Atlantic at the moment. It hasn't actually developed yet, but will be deepening very rapidly as we go through the next day or so. So rain arriving overnight into Friday. That rain is expected to be heavy at times as the southeast wind increases strong to gale force. So it could get gusts up to around 70 miles an hour by the end of the night. So maybe 5-6 in the morning or something like that. Moving on to Friday daytime itself, very early in the morning the winds are going to veer south to southwest, and once those winds veer, that's when we'll see the marked increase in the wind, with further gusts up to 80 miles an hour are possible quite widely as that rain clears to isolated showers. So expecting some damage and disruption to travel is expected. The winds will then veer westerly in the afternoon and will decrease, but it will still remain severe gale force for a time. So I think the worst of the winds will be during the morning time on Friday. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Stuart. Obviously seeing a lot of news about this in the UK as well. Some people suggesting this could be quite an historic storm. Have you got any sense of just how bad it might be? Have we seen anything like this recently? Obviously we've had quite a few storms already this winter.
Yes, that's right. It could be an historic storm, actually. I've been here on the island for about 6 years. It's definitely the strongest winds that I've seen on the models going forward. I mean, there's a chance that the warning could get escalated during tomorrow morning to a red warning. It's currently amber, but we just need to hone in on the timings and just the magnitude on those winds, which are still open to debate. But if we are expecting gusts over 80 miles an hour on Friday, then that could be quite an historic storm.
And it must be so busy down there. I know we only seem to talk to you when the conditions are really bad. I mean, can you give us an idea of just how often you're checking those models that you talk about and checking how the conditions are likely to be?
Oh yes, regularly in between all of the other like general work that we're doing and various meetings across government, which we do quite regularly. Some of the models come in at different times. The main ones every 6 hours, so there's further stuff to look at now, and then other ones from around Europe and the rest of the world, they all come in a little bit later on. So yeah, we're constantly monitoring it. By the time we get to tomorrow morning, we'll have a good few more runs of the model, and hopefully if there's some consistency with the speeds and the timings, then it could get escalated to a red warning.
Stuart, we really appreciate your time and your updates. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was Stuart Davison down at the Met Office. As he said there, it could potentially be upgraded to a red warning. We'll know more, and as soon as we have those details, we will bring them to you.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate. View philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and man in a van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's coming up to 8 minutes past 5. Of course, if things had been the same as they were at the end of last week, we would be in the middle of a doctor's strike now here on the Isle of Man. Fortunately, we're not. But the former Health Minister, Laurie Hooper, says it will be interesting to see if government has managed to find some extra money to fund the proposed deal pay with doctors. Now, his comments follow yesterday's last-minute offer from Manx Care to avert a 2-day doctor's strike today and tomorrow. It was scheduled to end at 7 a.m. on Friday. What we know is that the offer from the health body of an 8% increase is currently being considered by the doctors who are members of the British Medical Association. So Laurie Hooper has been in Tynwald. We know that the Tynwald court sitting has finished now, but he has been talking to Phil Gaughan.
It'll be interesting to see now what comes out of those negotiations, whether the doctors' union accepts this pay offer, and then whether or not they're able to negotiate and agree what some of those changes might have to look like in order to fund it without impacting on patients.
The doctors in an interview that I did with them recently were quite positive in relation to the various ministers who now populate the politics of health, but they were quite scathing of Manx Care. Is that something that you would have been familiar with when you were Health Minister?
It's quite an unusual setup, actually, because the issue you've got is they complain about kind of Manx Care management, and that's the words that he used quite a lot. The challenge is a lot of those are actually doctors. So Manx Care operate a triumvirate leadership system where they have doctors and non-doctors kind of working together in leadership roles, and you can see all that in their structure charts and whatnot. And so I think sometimes it's that the people that you're talking to aren't necessarily the same people that are involved in those management decisions. but actually they're all still doctors together, if that makes sense. So it's an interesting dynamic that they have down there. But ultimately, some of it, I think, you have to remember, this is typical kind of union government negotiation. You get the same thing from other unions when they're having pay disputes and issues, and all sorts of things get thrown in, because ultimately it's all about putting pressure on the government to do what they want in respect of pay. So none of this is really unusual, I think. That's not to say that they don't have some quite sensible arguments underlying it. When the teachers a number of years ago were doing the same thing, they were talking about pay erosion. And again, I think everyone on the island has had pay erosion in the last 15 or so years. It's not a surprise that the doctors are saying exactly the same thing. What's going to be interesting, though, again, it comes back to how are they going to pay for this pay rise? Because at my time in the department, I was being told very explicitly by the Chief Minister and the Treasury Minister that there was no more money for anything. I was arguing that there was and there should be, and that's ultimately one of the reasons that I ended up resigning. So it'll be interesting to see now if the government has changed their position on that and they have managed to find some more money in order to properly fund services.
That's the former Health Minister, Laurie Hooper, talking to Phil there, 11 minutes past 5 now. Welcome to Update. If you're listening and you've just tuned in, we've been talking to the Met Office about this storm, which we know is going to hit the Isle of Man on Friday. Stuart Davison says potentially, when they look at the models over the next few hours, that weather warning could be escalated up to a red warning, and it could be, in Stuart's words, an historic storm here on the Isle of Man. Certainly what he's been looking at suggests it could be the highest winds that we have seen for a number of years, but we will keep you up to date on exactly what will be happening. Now, almost 2/3 of all the pitches at the grandstand this TT have been awarded to local traders. The Department for Enterprise has revealed those stats after criticism on social media, as Amy Griffiths reports.
The application period for trade sites at this year's races were open from the 25th of November to the 20th of December last year. All submissions are said to have been reviewed and scored against a robust evaluation system, which was approved by the Attorney General's office and in full compliance with financial regulations. Excluding sponsors, there'll be a total of 28 pitches at this year's event. According to DFE, 21 of those have been awarded to Isle of Man registered businesses, while 7 have been allocated to UK-based ones. In addition, all of the food and drink traders are Isle of Man registered. Applicants were informed about the decisions on Monday, and due to the size of the site, not all applicants could be accommodated, which DFE acknowledges could have disappointed some businesses. The department says it remains a key priority to make sure the trade sites at the TT Grandstand provide a varied and diverse range of food options while catering to visitors, paddock residents and fans alike. It's also committed to maintaining a fair and transparent process. The statement comes after accusations that the government had priced all local traders out of the market. Political member for Motorsport, Sarah Maltby MHK, says she hopes this clears up any assumptions that have been made about the tender process.
Amy Griffiths reporting, and you'll be able to find out more about that at manxradio.com. 13 minutes past 5 now.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, nothing specific on the police pages, so hopefully all okay for your drive home tonight. As we heard in the news headlines, Ramsey Swing Bridge is closed at the moment. That is until the 25th while they do some repairs there. All looking okay down at the airport. And with the steam packet, the Manxman left Heysham at 1:45 this afternoon. Expected to get in around quarter of an hour at 5:30 and then heading out again at 7:15. We do know because of that storm they are monitoring sailings from tomorrow evening, and once again we'll bring you any information on those as soon as we have it.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with Quayside.
It's coming up to 14 minutes past 5. Now, the Chief Minister has stressed the importance of government's 5-year efficiency programme, the launch of which he announced in Tynwald this month. At the heart of the strategy is a recruitment control framework, and this is to identify and control vacancies within government departments, with particular emphasis on senior appointments. Well, speaking earlier to Phil again, he said he recognised the government is under huge financial pressure and action was needed to get control of the public sector.
Government has got to get smaller. We have got to digitise. We have got to increase our productivity and our efficiency. And we've got to utilise the tools, the modern tools, such as artificial intelligence and the digital advances that we're seeing to help us achieve that. We know that we are under huge financial pressure. We know that we are running a deficit. And in a couple of weeks' time, we will obviously hear from the Treasury Minister as the overall state of the finances projected, for this year, and of course looking forward to next year. But there's no question that the deficit is significant. And on top of that, we have all these additional pressures, particularly with healthcare spending, but also other departments, education being one, where there is growing demand for increased funding. And of course, we had a tax increase last year. Now, we have got to get control of the public sector. And part of the answer to that is increasing efficiencies, is digitalisation, is looking at people and how they are employed. And I hope that what we are doing is really going to help kickstart a fresh drive and awareness, both within senior management in departments, but also amongst employees to seek that maximum value. And I also hope that we can bring some more initiatives forward during the course of this that will help employees and indeed service users add value to the process and help us identify where we can get these wins in terms of increasing efficiency and productivity of the public sector.
That is Chief Minister Alf Cannon talking about the importance of government's 5-year efficiency programme, which he announced in Tynwald this month. As I say, Tynwald has now finished for January. If you missed any of it, very shortly we will have a Tynwald in brief, and that's where we go through the main highlights of Tynwald, so you don't have to listen back to the full thing, although who wouldn't want to do that? 16 and a half minutes past 5. Now, the number of people out of work on the Isle of Man rose by 24 in December when compared with the November total. Now, that increase takes the jobless figure to 345. That's 60 higher than the corresponding month in 2023, and it represents an unemployment rate of 0.8%. Well, Simon is with me now. He's been taking a look at the figures, so let's just talk through some of those numbers. And Simon, on the face of it, it seems like bad news, really. Are there any mitigating factors?
Hi Beth, yes, always disappointing to see more people out of work, but there was indeed some mitigation in the fact that the number of vacancies notified to the job centre actually increased by 63 on the November figure, and that stands now at 551.
Are those jobs, do we know, mainly full-time or part-time?
The breakdown shows that 392 of the vacancies are for full-time posts. That's around 71%, with the remaining 29% or 159 jobs classed as part-time.
Now, does this unemployed total reflect the fortunes of specific sectors, do you know?
It does to some extent, Beth. The fairly vague miscellaneous services category accounts for the highest number, with 50 people looking for work. But catering and retail distribution weren't far behind, with 31 and 30 people respectively. The woes of the construction sector, though, were reflected in 20 skilled and 19 unskilled workers looking for jobs.
And the construction sector is something we've been hearing about on Manx Radio this week. So year on year, how does that December figure that we've been hearing about stack up?
Well, actually, it shows a steady increase in the number of people out of work. This December's total was, in fact, 60 people higher than the corresponding month in 2003.
OK. Also released, Simon, have been the December inflation figures. How are they looking?
Well, not particularly good news there either, Beth. The island's inflation figure for December jumped 0.6% to stand at 2.4%.
I guess, though, that is still considerably lower than it has been in recent times. But do we know where the main price increases have been?
Well, if you enjoy socialising in hotels, restaurants and pubs, it seems you'll be feeling the pinch a bit. The category was in fact the second largest riser behind miscellaneous goods and services, with an increase of 5.3% in December. Wines and spirits in particular in licensed premises were up 7.3% year on year. And looking specifically at year on year price rises, Beth, property rentals were up a thumping 18%. And if you've got teenagers learning to drive, the lessons are on average 12.5% more than they were in December 24.
Gosh, do you remember how much it used to cost when you were learning to drive?
Yeah, I can't actually.
No, I can't remember either. But anyway, Simon, thank you very much. It's always difficult trying to look through all of those figures and make some sense of them, but thank you for talking us through those. It's coming up to 5:20. Let's turn our attentions back to the skies, but some rather more positive news now, because from eclipses to aurora and meteor showers, there will be plenty to keep us occupied as we look up to the skies over the next 12 months. And it seems actually that more and more of us are taking an interest in the universe around us. At least that's what our resident expert Howard Parkin, MBE, has told us here at Manx Radio. Christy has been catching up with him to find out more about what we have seen in the skies recently and what to look out for in the weeks and months to come.
Astronomy has become a subject which it's been a sort of minority subject for many, many years, until about 20 years ago. And I think the growth of global consciousness and things like awareness of the climate and everything else, it's made people far more aware of the natural environment. The UNESCO biosphere is another aspect of that, if you like. And I'm noticing more and more people are wanting to know about astronomy. That's why I go on the cruises and talk about it, because people want to learn about it. And people are always saying, what's that bright star above the moon? It's Venus. And of course, literally a few days later, that bright star below the moon was Jupiter. And in fact, tonight, Mars is going to be below the moon as well. So it goes on. But we don't normally get bright planets in the sky at the same time like we've got now. We might get one if we're lucky. I mean, in about 3 months' time, we'll have no planets visible. And then we'll start again next September, October again, when Jupiter will come back round again and Saturn will come back round again. Venus will be in the morning.
Again.
Yeah, exactly. Venus will be in the morning sky and Mars disappears because Mars goes around the sun in 2 years, so we only see it every 2 years.
And then I'm guessing as well that I know we've talked in the past about folklore and history associated with events like this. I'm guessing the idea of the planets aligning, there must be people who react to that in a very different way.
Oh, totally a different way. And unfortunately, we do. But as I say, if people talk about it in any way, then they're interested, and I can obviously tell them about the astronomical sides of it rather than the astrological sides of it. What is fascinating, you talk about that, is Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the sun, and we go around the sun obviously once a year. But because Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the sun, it moves from one zodiacal constellation every year. So, for instance, it's in Taurus this year. Next year, it'll be in Gemini. Following year, it'll be in Cancer, and then Leo, and so on. So the connection between birth signs and the planets, that it gives people a real buzz. And I know the astrologers will be saying, oh, Venus, Jupiter's about to enter into Gemini, and look out, whatever happens. Yeah. But that's a load of rubbish. But you can understand why all those people's years and years ago didn't understand why the planets did what they did, and therefore this was attributed to astrological things. And there's me talking about astrology on Manx Radio. Dear me.
I know.
My colleagues will be shouting at their radios now.
Oh, that's Howard Parkin, MBE, talking to Christy there. I think it's always fascinating thinking about the planets and the alignments. And actually, there does seem to be something in the fact that if there's a full moon, then people's behaviour can be a little bit strange. You can hear more from Howard in last night's Island Life. It was a special programme on last night. It's available to catch up on now at manxradio.com as an Island Life podcast. If you're just joining us, just a reminder that we've been talking about the weather that we are expecting on Friday. Well, certainly overnight into Friday. We'll have much more detail about it online and on our social media pages a little bit later. But we were talking to Stuart Davison down at the Met Office. We know it's an amber warning at the moment. It could be upgraded to a red warning when they take a look at the latest models and see what the wind speeds are actually going to be. So we will keep you fully up to date with that. But Stuart did say potentially it could be an historic storm here on the Isle of Man. 23.5 minutes past 5. Sport time now. Darren, how are you doing?
Good evening. Jackson Racing have announced their lineup for TT 2025. Josh Brooks is set to return to the team after previously racing with them in 2017 and will join Paul Jordan for this year's event. Both teammates will compete on Honda machinery in the Superbike, Superstock and Super Sport races. The Australian is joining the side off the back of a successful 2024 campaign where he became the 5th fastest rider ever around the mountain course on his way to a second place finish in the senior TT. The 41-year-old said the team have got good bikes and equipment and are very eager to make the right steps to not only give me the best, but also the whole team. Jordan also enjoyed a strong 2024 TT. He set personal bests on all Jackson machinery while securing 3 top 10 finishes. Team owner Alan Jackson added, "It's without a doubt our strongest ever team." Manx Trials star Caitlin Adshed has signed for Sherco UK for 2025, joining her GB teammate. Adched, who was recently nominated for the Isle of Man Sportswoman of the Year, will join Emma Bristow. Speaking on the move, the Island rider said, "I'm beyond excited to be joining the Sherco UK team. Riding under Emma, who has been an inspiration to me since I first set foot on a bike, is a huge opportunity." Both Adched and Bristow have had success for Team GB, winning the World Championship 2 years in a row. And in cycling, Stage 2 of the Tour Down Under took place this morning with Manx riders Ben Swift and Max Walker in action. Swift was looking to build on his 5th place finish yesterday, but the Ineos Grenadiers rider could only manage 41st in Tanunda. Walker also struggled as the EF Education Easy Post rider finished down in 80th.
Thank you very much indeed, Darren, with a look at today's sports news. That's pretty much all from Update tonight. Do join Ben from 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, where among other things he will of course give you the very latest on the weather situation and what preparations may need to take place ahead of Friday's storm. They'll also be talking about government unveiling its budget. So what really are the biggest challenges facing public sector finances? 3 ministers have been discussing those issues recently, so we'll be hearing about that. And do you know a talented young vocalist? Well, nominations are open for the next Young Singer of Man. Find out all about that tomorrow. But as I say, that is all from Update this evening. It will shortly be available to download as a podcast should you wish to listen again. Stay tuned though, lots to come over the next few hours here on Manx Radio. Up next, it's Spotlight with Howard Kane, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council. A look at all things cultural here on the Isle of Man. Then Chris Kinley will be here from 6 with Greatest Hits. At 9, it's Country Roads with Andy Wint, and Rianne will be with you to round off your Wednesday at 10 with After Hours. Whatever you're doing this evening, have a good one, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.